Hey everyone, welcome to the Open Source Founder Podcast. Joining me today is Jove, co-founder and head of product at Timeplus, a company that recently open sourced Proton. I'm very excited to talk about this. Jove, thanks so much for joining. And let's kick it off with some information about your personal background and then how Timeplus gets started.
Yeah, my name is Jove Zhong. I'm based in Vancouver. I'm one of the co-founder for Timeplus, and we have been working on the next generation stream processing engine to make the data engineer and the platform engineer much easier to process their data. And at a high level, this is really a new way to process the data without worry too much regarding tuning JVM, set up a cluster. This is really a new way to process data in a much efficient way. Worry about less infrastructure stuff. I'm happy to discuss more about this space and do some demo later. Yep.
Perfect. Yeah, I would love to hear a little more about how you experienced this problem throughout your career so far, and then all the way to actually starting your open source motion with Proton. I think it's been a few months of the first release. So, how do you experience this problem before?
Yeah, of course. So actually, I in this space like over 20 years. I worked for a big company like IBM for 4 years and a half. Worked for EMC Documentum, which is a content management enterprise search product for the other 4 years and a half. I worked for the company called Splunk, which is the very first kind of big data company gets IPO and focus a lot on the log analysis, observability, security. In the company I worked for them 7 years and a half. So even I already, this is my 21, 22 year of working, but I only work for not a lot of company, but I do see a lot of opportunities slash frustration and opportunity that is there's more and more data. Right? In the past, we talked a lot about big data. So that's how you get familiar with the Hadoop, HDFS, MapReduce, but not many people talk about live big data right now because there's a lot of live data, right? Stuff like Kafka, like Redpanda, Pulsar, and in the recent 1 or 2 years, it is not large, it's large data model like LLM. Even this week in SES, people talking about large action models. So there's a lot of things going on, but essentially people needed to absorb much bigger and immediate data in a very efficient way. But underlying technology doesn't really give you a good foundation. You have to learn a lot of open source technology. You have to learn the programming language. You have set up big cluster. There's a lot of things many to work on. For example, my last 2 years in Splunk, we did leverage stuff like Kubernetes, leverage Apache Flink, leverage Kafka, leverage Kinesis. It's true, there's many components in that project to set up a large scale multi-tenant data pipeline. And it is not cheap. And we have almost 100 engineers. Again, we build a very interesting product. We process sometimes over multiple petabyte data a day. But in that kind of scale, this entire stack is very complex. We make it work for sure, but we feel like there can be a different way, an easier way. So that's why some of us coming from Splunk background, thinking that is, hey, if this processing data in the emotion to reduce sending too many garbage or some low-level data to the destination, can we have a system in the middle to process data in more efficient way? And is the Apache Flink only option? So we ask those questions, and we take a very aggressive approach. That is, we build a new engine, and this is based on C++, not based on Java. This gives us a very independent tool. That is, you don't have to worry too much about other components. You just set up either a single node or cluster very efficiently, leverage the latest Linux or OS file system level features such as IOU ring. Then you aiming for the lowest possible infrastructure overhead, but also you gain the best performance. And also we leverage ClearHouse because there are, I guess, maybe 1,000 or 2,000 different SQL functions in ClearHouse. The product database is very solid. So we leverage ClearHouse as the kind of a CQ engine mainly focusing on the historical side, but we implemented something new for the streaming processing and also try to unify them together so that you don't have to set up Timeplus and the ClearHouse. Actually, there's a single binary. So the journey that is we start from this unified approach, and we have our first cloud release 1.5 years ago. We also have some on-prem customers, but in the same time, we feel like this is such an amazing product. We do want to open to more users, especially for the open source community. So 3 months ago, we made the decision to have our core engine open source under Apache license v2, which is a very friendly license. And we started to really get more feedback from users, even they don't really want to make a decision to purchase our cloud right now.
Thank you so much for this background. Certainly makes a lot of sense. I understand that it's difficult infrastructure to work with and very expensive for organizations, and these real-time streaming data needs, as well as analyzing historical data, putting everything together in real time. The applications are in every industry. My understanding is in fintech, for example, or with Internet of Things, DevOps. Like there's a real pain point there. Coming to today, if you could talk about a little more about the decision to open source, how it influences distribution, as well as the ease of new people to play with the technology, all the way to actually enterprises adopting it. I'm curious how you're mapping out that process for your product and for Proton, and what it's looked like today in terms of the adoption, the conversations you're having, and monetization as well. How it can help the company be sustainable.
That's actually one of the kind of fun part, and also I'm not saying that dark part, but it's also some challenging part, because in the past I always in the role such as engineering lead, engineering manager, director, and I don't have to worry too much regarding the go-to-market strategy, how to do the customer call, all those things, and also pricing. But again, many of us in this Timeplus company, we are coming from technical background, but we really learn things fast. Maybe we make some mistake, but we try to improve ourselves and adapt to what we need to do. So I guess the reason why we start our company for the first 1 or 2 years really heads down to build a product, and we discuss open source strategy a little bit, but we don't really make the open source at the very beginning. Partially because that is we know we are working on a very challenging problem, and it is not easy to suddenly build something amazing to some other project or some commercial product which has been there for 10 or 20 years. For example, in the fintech space, you may know that there's a company called KX. The product is called KDB, I think. It is very expensive software. I guess they don't really support cluster, but it is already widely adopted by many bank or like hedge funds. And they also use a very special language called Q. So they do give you very low latency, high performance. But people who spend maybe 2 years learning it don't want to turn to other projects, because that kind of a learning experience become their assets, right? Just like I'm not sure how many people right now in the world is still using COBOL, right? So those programmers, maybe they can be very rich because they are having a very unique skill. So it's very interesting. But my point that is, there's a lot of mature / established players in this space, like KDB in the fintech area, and for example Apache Flink, Apache Spark, or even KCDB. They are already been in their space for a long time. But I do see a lot of campaign, for example, for the KCDB, and the future of that project is not very clear, especially one confront put so much effort, money to build the Flink cloud service and the solutions. So we know this is not an easy project. I know there's some project today, people just wrap OpenAI API to have a new product to like release the product within 2 or 3 weeks. It's not the case for us. So we have a lot of database engineer. We build our multi-talent or cloud services. We even have a UI, which I demonstrate later. That is really wanted to give a new experience to the developer that is it is very fast. but it's very easy to use. So there's a lot of stuff to do, so we don't worry too much about open source at the first beginning. Actually, also because we're coming from the background of Splunk. Splunk is not really open source product. It's very successful. One of the key reasons that is Splunk, they have very nice infrastructure written in Timeplus, but under the cover, they have very nice UI, and they have dashboard. They have out-of-box solution for security, for anti-monitoring. So you don't really have to be expert for CQ or as a programmer. You just use the product out of the box. In some degree, we're really influenced by Splunk, and also other product like Snowflake is not open source. So there's a lot of debate. So somehow we made the decision that is we really needed to spend the first 1 or 2 years really have the product very ready. And also we start on the cloud first. So I think that was March 2022. I think we have a very first private beta. Then we go to public beta. And then we go to GA, got stuck to sometimes. But I joined, in the same time, I joined many technical conference or meetup. And also I joined as many Discord or Slack community as possible. Try to reach out those developers to see what kind of problem they are trying to facing, what's the challenge, what's on their wish list. And then I try to present, hey, this is a new tool. It is very easy to use. We do have the free tier on the cloud, but it's very common that is people say, sorry, I either by company policy or I'm still at the early stage, I don't want to use a cloud service or I don't want to commit it to using a commercial product. Can I have this on my laptop? Can I deploy this in our internal Kubernetes cluster? I get so many answers like this, and we think that, hey, since developer is our main user, maybe manager or CIO, CTO can be our buyer, but developer is the user. And the tools like this, it is very hard not to open source. At least have the core engine for them to get experience and get some build more confident. And maybe if they want to let us to manage the infra, yeah, that'd be great. But open source seems to be, we are not Snowflake, we are not Splunk. So there's only a few companies out there can say no to open source. We do think having open source model ready will open the door for more people to try our product. And also we contribute back to the community. For example, we leverage ClearHouse, and now we are contributing some streaming processing code back to ClearHouse. But again, we as a company, we move very fast. ClearHouse have a lot of other priority. They are more focusing on the cloud warehouse. So we cannot share every code to them. They don't really have time to merge them. But the idea really is that is on one end, we open source ourselves core engine as Proton. On the other hand, we contribute to those code back to say ClearHouse, or for example, we leverage a project called Benzos as a source and sync framework. We also contribute back to. So we want to be a good player in the space. In the same time, more importantly, we want to get more user feedback from the developers, even they don't have no intention right now to use our commercial products. We just spent about the last 2-3 months on this, and to be honest, I'm still new to this open source, nothing marketing, but at least community building. But it gives me more opportunity to talk to more developers because we are not really trying to sell you anything. We are building an interesting product and just try to let you know, and you can try it for free and give us some feedback, no matter having a feature request or even a PR, that would be great. So more conversation started because we do have an open source project. Yeah.
Phenomenal. And, this vouches for the open source motion. Great to hear that already you're getting all this new feedback and traction and requests from people. And of course, it goes hand in hand with making it easy to use. And I think you've been doing a great job so far showing how easy it is to use with all these demo videos you make on Twitter, for example, on X. Like you publish them very often at Jove, your handle. So I was very impressed, and you overlay yourself all the time, try different formats. So I really like that. I don't know if there's anything you could share with people in terms of building in public and doing those kind of demos, putting yourself in front of the camera. If there's anything you learned so far or a tool you found that you really enjoyed, and then all the way to actually podcasting. You have your own podcast, Streaming Caffeine, and I'm curious how it has helped with gathering this sort of feedback, hearing the problems people experiencing in the industry, and positioning the company as well to solve those problems and foster these relationships. Just curious to hear how you've been experiencing all this.
I do try different approach in the past 1 2 years, especially the last year. I started the podcast. I joined more conference. I'm so lucky to be a presenter in some of the conference, right, whether online or offline. And I start write more blog. Essentially, I think me as the co-founder, and no matter what kind of title I have, but I really want to do whatever I can to help the company, help the product to be more successful. Right? If now, for example, we already have awesome database engineers to write the code. I don't have the good C++ engineer to write the code, but we do need people to uh, further to let more people know the awesomeness of Timeplus and the Proton. And also, we need to build a more partnership. We need to educate the market a little bit about what is streaming processing. So I feel like this is really something I can contribute, no matter to the company, to the team, or to the wider peer in this market. So that's the reason why a couple of things you mentioned, that is the streaming caffeine is a very casual podcast. It's more like, hey, I talked to some of my friends or some new friends in this space. It's not really about Timeplus or Proton. It's really about, hey, what kind of cool project you are working on in this streaming space, no matter you are working on, say, message bus layer, or you are working on streaming processing engine, or you work on some database. I just want to add this some fun elements. That's why I'm using the streaming caffeine. So people sometimes usually have a cup of espresso or latte. At the very beginning, I position this as a streaming cafe, but my first guest actually is Xander coming from Bywax. Bywax, by the way, is awesome open source project, especially for Python developers. So we are a strong believer for SQL, but I know that a lot of people prefer using Python to have more flexibility. Bywax is a cool way to using Python as the interface, but underneath they have that a Rust engine, which is very fast. My first guest is Xander from Bywax, and he said, yeah, maybe we should be more inclusive. So people might drink tea, for example, but all those stuff have a caffeine. So let's call this like streaming caffeine, and we have a lot of cool conversation. And sometimes I do ask a similar question as this one, that is, hey, I do have the interest, but you may want to share more to the audience. That is, what's your lesson learned when you building a product or have a new project? This streaming caffeine, I think right now it's 10 or 11 episodes. Interview people in different ways, sometimes virtual or in person. And maybe I mentioned 1 or 2 sentences about Timeplus or Proton, but the whole point that is, this is not a commercial purpose. It is really a very casual way for people want to join this space or already in this space want to know what's happening. In the same time, also have other not really podcasts, but more like a playlist. That is, for example, how to learn streaming SQL in 3 minutes. Every video I try to edit or record it within about 3 minutes. So every 3 minutes you learn a new concept. Of course, I also build some other product demos, during some functions. For example, we are now using Riverside FM, which is awesome too. I think about 10 months ago, I think the very first time someone else interviewed me also using Riverside. And he also published some video and a blog. I said, oh, this is such a nice tool. And I started using it. Also, some of my streaming podcast, typing podcast using it. It is a very nice tool. And at the same time, there's some AI magic in this tool, but kind of person needed to, I'm not saying try to be perfect, but sometimes we do have different requirements. For example, it's okay you have an YouTube video for say 40 minutes, but on Twitter, for example, I think the limit is 140 seconds, just like 140 characters. So
Yeah.
about 2 minutes. So and LinkedIn, maybe you can put a long video, but people don't watch for that 1 minute video on LinkedIn. So you don't need to edit in different versions, add some maybe subtitle or future effects. So I do use some other tools such as Final Cut, using Riverside, using some other tool. But
that's awesome. I think you're doing a great job so far. Keep it up, and yeah, it gives ourselves as the host the opportunity to form these connections, to learn from the guests, as well as for the guests to share everything they know, and everyone get through these reps of putting ourselves in front of camera, discussing. And
one thing I want to add that is this is also kind of a mindset shift, right? Because when I was senior manager or director in big company like Splunk, sometimes manage like 50 people. I do spend more time on how we can define OKR, how we can have the process, hiring or retention, or propose improvement, things like that. When I was in that position, I'm not really so passionate regarding social media or LinkedIn. But now I'm in this founder position. I do need to make more connections. I'm looking for opportunity, but also in the same time, I do see a need to build our own brand and position better for ourselves. That is, we are the domain experts. Because we are so quiet for me in the past. Now we are building a new next generation product as open source. Oh, don't really have a lot of context about the product. But if they start to believe that is, yes, you are a person with the right knowledge, experience, skill, and you already experienced so many things. And if they start to trust you as an individual, then it will be easier if you say, hey, this is the product. I spent so much effort and get a lot of good condition from all my people around. So there will be a higher chance for your audience to build the confidence and build a product. So I'm not saying I have to be an influencer. I really I'll never be. But the point that is the reason why I spend so much time on the writing every day or publish videos from time to time is to build this kind of cadence and awareness that is no matter you are new to data streaming, you check my blog. Actually, sometimes not really related to my products. It's more about my opinions, things like that. So I don't want to get confused. Also, I sometimes help people using AI by helping people using my channel. They are still in this data space. So I don't really have to sell them to using Timeplus, but if they really see my article, my blog, give them help, and I'm not asking for return, but that kind of trust, kind of influence can help me to reach out to more people, make their life easier. I mean, that will be making me very happy. Also, more importantly, talk to the users,
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
making sure you get the feedback, validate your assumptions. And no matter it's cloud or it's on-prem, it doesn't really matter. No matter whether it's infrastructure features or it's a solution for a certain industrial, it doesn't really matter either, as long as it's not for a particular user. Because the key thing we want to avoid that is we don't want to spend too much effort just to make one user happy.
Mm-hmm.
If that's very unique for them, then you cannot leverage that kind of effort to sell to the other user or at least to make the other user more efficient. So the key point that is very helpful to spend effort as a project, focus more on the product, no matter the product is, as long as it's a repeatable pattern, as long as it's really solve real problem, you are on the good path.
Exactly. That was very insightful. Thank you so much for sharing this. And it is a tension for a lot of infrastructure companies. Navigating, building more for the organizations that need to self-host and maybe have different compliance requirements, or for the cloud version. And it can be a challenge to balance everything and where to put engineering bandwidth. But as you said, at the end of the day, you need to do something that is repeatable and is going to benefit a lot of people, a lot of organizations and developers. So that was really insightful. Thanks so much for sharing this. And without further ado, I think we can transition into the demo section. And for that, I have my co-founder Zaf join to help go through the demo.
Hey, Jove. It's great to have you here.
So let me demonstrate a little bit about our products, both on the Timeplus side and on the Proton side, to give you an idea about what I'm talking about. So Proton is the open source engine we publish to make the data engineer more efficiently to process data in Kafka, in the IoT devices, in fintech data sources. And you can think of this as a secure engine for you to process data in an efficient way. In the past, or maybe even today, people using tools like Apache Flink or KCQDB or write their own code to process the data by themselves. And it requires a lot of learning, tuning, and infrastructure costs because those are not easy enough to learn, and they are complex. And because of the stack is like JVM, so there's a lot of components. Sometimes you have to spend maybe 2 or 3 months to really set up a very healthy system. Proton, we build on top of the ClearHouse, so it is very efficient, and we add a lot of stream processing capability so that you can using CQ as interface to process data easily. For example, have this demo stack using Redpanda as a message bus. So for people don't really know too much about Redpanda, so it is similar to Kafka. Actually, they're using the same API or protocol as Kafka, but Touch Kafka is written in Java or maybe Scala a little bit. It is very mature product, and the company behind it is confirmed. They have the control cloud, the control platform. Kafka is almost the de facto data streaming number one or top three in this space. Redpanda is a Kafka compatible data streaming system, but they implement using C++ just like us. So we share a lot of similarity. We are aiming for easy to use, very efficient. We have very good integration. So what I'm showing right now is in the bottom sample folder, and you can see there's a lot of different examples. For example, for the car sharing, which is IoT use case, Coinbase, which is a fintech, fraud detection, even hacker news. So in the e-commerce folder, this is using Docker Compose. This is quite a simple stack. We have the Proton latest version here, and we have the Redpanda, the message bus to different topic for different data. And we have this console, which is this Redpanda console is an SUI for you to review all the message in the topic. Modern data engineer today, that is, you have all the data in different systems, maybe in Postgres database, maybe in Snowflake, in other transaction system. But it is very common to consolidate them together in Kafka or Redpanda or Kinesis as a message bus. Then you need a tool to process that data. And a very common choice today is Splunk or Spark. The problem that is it is a relatively heavy, complex tool for you to learn and tune and set up. Now we have this list of topics. Imagine you want to monitor how your website is being visited. A user is purchasing which product and whether your recent marketer campaign gets the right impact you want. So Redpanda and or Kafka give you this opportunity to put any data into the system. It's a JSON or maybe Avro protocol. All those messages can be put in a very flexible way, and you needed to analyze those data. For example, here we have all the IP address, we have the SCP method, or maybe have the size. You may want to understand how many requests is using post, how many is using get, or maybe you can do more interesting stuff like which country or which city is visiting which category, stuff like that. So the idea that is you consolidate your data in Redpanda. This is not the problem we solve in terms of Proton. This is assuming this is already set up. How Proton can chime in, that is you already have all the data consolidated in a very nice data streaming platform. Let's using Proton to understand this quickly without being set up a very complex step. For example, I think I would have Proton right now. This is the Proton client. We are using the latest Proton, and I show string, which is there's no data defined. This is the docs.timeplus.com Proton. This is our documentation. Feel free to read more. So we do have a way to read or write Kafka. So in this example, we can using a Excel string like this. So we define a table or string and point to the Redpanda topic, and we can get this data easily. So copy this one, to run this. And you can see if I say select a star from the front end JSON, you can, I mean, this query never ends. This is also an interesting way that is, traditionally SQL is ended query, right? You query a range for your Snowflake or your Postgres, and no matter you wait for 1 second or 1 minute, you get the result. But in our case, the SQL is always running because it's a data pipeline. And for sure, you can have ways. For example, I only care about method. I only care about IP address. For example, in this case, you can select certain field, or can you have some whereas for sure, or you can have aggregation group method. So this is a very simple example. That is, we can list how many events for certain hosts or certain method, and this will give you periodical results. And so this is also based on our default behavior that is every 2 seconds. But if you want to get the output, say every 5 seconds, so you can have stuff like this. You have this window called window, which every 5 seconds there's a window. In that window, we calculate how many events in that window. Right? And there's some other window, for example, sliding window that is every 5 seconds. We can have a window moving in the period. So it's more like give me results every 1 second for the past 5 seconds, for example. So those are very interesting way for you to keep monitoring the data and without waiting for the next interval. Right? So traditionally, people know there's some cron job, there's some ETL. You either wait for 1 day or maybe you wait for every 1 hour to get the new data. But in the streaming world, with the popular tool like Kafka and Redpanda and Pulsar, now it is very easy for you to keep getting data. Now you need a way to process data in an efficient way, in a continuous way. And that's how we can work. And this is the engine side, but in the same time, we have the Timeplus, which is more like adding extra UI, adding the cloud friendly interface. For example, I give you a very quick demo that is, say, you can define different source or different processing logic, and you can combine them together as the data lineage, or sometimes we call it DAG. So you can easily understand, say, for a certain data source, this is the view defined, and how other views is created based on that view. So you can better understanding, like, if there's some data quality issues, which component you should be spending more time on it. And similarly, we have some query interface. We have our dashboard alerting systems. Maybe I can show a little bit. For example, we do have a lot of customer in the fintech area. So, for example, if you notice the price of Web3 of Bitcoin in the last year. So, if you can really set up a very kind of a new project to understand the Bitcoin price, have some strategy implemented, you might have a chance to get some financial return. We do provide a very solid tool for them to do the basic data ETL, or they can do some sophisticated trading strategy, or at least find some alerts for them to either buy or sell or pay attention. We have some customer using us for security use cases, for example, whether you are being DDoS attacked, or some other IoT cases. If you have many cars on the street, which area need more car, or whether people having some issue for your logging or some transaction. So there's a lot of things you can do, but essentially those are data problems, and we are very good at processing large data. Yep.
Thank you so much for the demo, Joe. With Timeplus, basically, if we have an existing Kafka or Redpanda pipeline, we can just throw Timeplus on front of it, and we can get real-time insights via these queries and charts and more, right?
Yeah, we do spend a lot of time to integrate with different tools, right? So Kafka protocol is obviously the number one tool we support in the Proton. So we do validate how we connect to Confirm Cloud. Upstream is the other Kafka alternative, Upstash. And some other cases that is you might want to push data from your sensor, from your IoT devices, from any other system to Proton. You may or may not put them in Kafka. So that's also why we have our REST API. So this is really a differentiator if you are familiar with, for example, ClearHouse. ClearHouse, again, is a great OLAP system, but it's not designed for you to keep pushing data to it, especially if we're talking about small amount of data. So the best practice actually for ClearHouse is you have either a Kafka or you accumulate the data by yourself and put them in a big batch and send it to ClearHouse. In that case, that you might lose this low latency. You might have to wait either say 1 second or 1 minute. But we enhance this part a lot in Proton because we do have our own streaming storage. So we have our REST API. You can just push any data to us in whatever interval, small as a single byte, but we can make sure that kind of data will be in our streaming processor immediately. So I don't have time today, but you can check my other demo data. So we can have some interesting way to say you install some app on your iPhone or Android and you shake it. All the data is pushed to Proton and you can visualize using Timeplus.
Yeah, I actually
watched
remember that demo. Yeah, it was very cool. Awesome.
Yeah, there's many things I can show, but I guess the key point that is everyone may facing kind of slightly different data problem. You might worry about the data quality. You might don't want to save too many data. You only select the important data, high value data to your underlying system. Those problems are real, and I think Flink or Spark or Minata tool have been there for a long time. But now you have a new tool in your toolbox, and it is very efficient. It's as small as I think it's 4 megabytes an array, and you don't really need to worry about JVM. We have some nice UI on the cloud, but also we feel that all using other tools like dbweaver, whatever tool you're familiar with to run your CPU. But you don't have to worry about the JVM. You don't have to worry about the cluster. I think this is give you a very good way to validate your idea. And of course, we support cluster. And when you build a more complex data project, and you can add more component to it. But for the starting point, we hope this can be. I don't think there's an easier way in the market to give you such a tool to run your streaming CPU.
Super cool.
I mean, the last thing that is, give us a star. I mean, we just open sourced about 3 months ago. So I think such tools really need more people to try, give feedback. And give us star is one of the great way to help promote the product. And we can build the community and move this to the next level together.
Absolutely.
Excellent.